Call the order of the regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, March 25th, 2019. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
First District Councilwoman Myrna Baldonado.
Present.
Third District Councilwoman Brenda Walker.
Present.
Fourth District Councilwoman Christine Vasquez.
Present.
Fifth District Councilman Robert Garcia. Sixth District Councilwoman Gilda Orange.
Present.
Councilman at Large Richard Medina.
Present.
Councilman at Large Emiliano Perez.
Present.
Councilman at Large Kenneth Monroe.
Present.
Council President Lenny Francisci.
Present. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for the regular scheduled meeting on March 11, 2019?
So move.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Monroe, seconded by Councilman Perez. Have any questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Baldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes. Have any communications from the mayor? Any communications from department heads?
Yes. Accounts payable warrant 0308119 PC, 032519 CC, 032519 LA.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to accept accounts payable warrant as read. Do we have any questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes.
Payroll warrant biweekly 030819.
So move.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilwoman Walker, to accept payroll warrant biweekly 030819. Any questions on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes. Do we have any committee reports? Moving on to board reports. Do we have any board reports? Moving on to ordinances. Councilwoman Orange.
Mr. President, I would like to make an amendment to the agenda and allow ordinance number 19-0005.
Second.
So, I have a motion to amend the agenda and add ordinance 19-0005. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes. Clerk Santos, can we start with the first ordinance, please?
Yes. Ordinance 19-0002, sponsor Mayor Anthony Court. An ordinance creating and reestablishing a cumulative capital fund pursuant to IC 36-9-15.5.
So moved on first and second reading?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to hear ordinance 19-0002 on second reading. We have someone to speak on the motion.
Good afternoon, Val Gomez, City Controller. The city is presently seeking to reestablish this cumulative fund, in particular a cumulative capital fund. I believe we originally passed one in 2005, and the way it works, if you re-advertise it, you can continue going on and on with the fund the state allows you. For some reason, the city allowed it to lapse several years ago, and for this reason, we're seeking to reestablish a fund as a capital cumulative fund. It's important to understand there will be no increase to property owners due to our cap, our 1, 2, 3 cap. Right now, where our city distribution is already at the max. Because of our surpluses and our financial situation right now, we can redistribute from other sources to fund this project. So there will be no cost to the taxpayers. So presently, we're seeking to establish this fund. Again, the state in February, I should have passed these out. The state sent out this procedure establishment for the fund in February.
Can you hand them out to the clerk, please, because we can't hear you, sir?
Okay, is there enough right there? So the state in February, they sent out the procedures and guidelines to do so, and I think this would trigger in our administration that when they're looking into the fund, that we had let it lapse in, I believe, in 2012 or 13. It wasn't re-advertised anymore. Included in the procedures is, I think on the second before last page, where the statutory authority for the common community funds. Ours would be a capital development fund only. That would be on table 1, second to the last page. Also, all the paperwork, everything submitted with this form has to be submitted and subject to approval by the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance. And once established, it has to remain in that fund. I think the last page kind of touches on it. Once you establish what the fund's going to be for, it has to remain in that. And the change, it requires actions by the council and administration. So, I believe.
Councilwoman Orange?
So Val, do you have to bring this before the council every year?
No, you just have to once the council approves it, you just have to re-advertise it. It's I think, Steve, you could.
Councilwoman Orange?
Steve, you can answer this. So Val said that it won't affect us because of the cap, but the cap doesn't go into next year. So if they're doing it for this year, will it affect the taxes for this year or this?
No, the first time that this tax would be collected would be in 2020 on the May bills that would go out in 2020. We would not see any of these dollars this year.
Councilman Perez?
When y'all gonna do when I start calling?
Now, this is, if I'm clear, this will be an additional tax on top of the levied, what's allowed by levy, correct?
That is correct. This would be an
That is
additional
correct.
property tax rate.
So it would only not affect those that have already reached the 1%. Those that have not reached the 1% will get a tax increase.
That is a correct statement, though I would probably also agree with the controller that that does not affect any people that I'm aware of that had not yet reached the max.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
I do not believe that affects any actual taxpayers. So you are correct in what you said, but I believe all of our taxpayers are at the max.
Okay. And you have confirmed that all of the taxpayers are at the max? And this money will be used for capital projects only? So you're really not collecting any new revenue? Right?
Correct. You're not collecting any revenue. It's moving it around between the buckets, the general fund.
So we're establishing this fund so we could have it ready.
I'm just trying to understand why we would create a fund, help me understand, where we're earmarking it for capital only, when nothing prevents us from using the monies that we have now into capital projects. doesn't seem to me like it makes sense. Maybe you can shed a little bit of light.
I see it more as an accounting tool. I don't know, Steve, you would agree, you establish it, you have money in there, it's easier to access it. But my understanding is you still have to come to the council. Suppose, for example, I know we already got all new fire trucks, but suppose we said we need to get 4 fire trucks, and we knew what their cost would be. We could put this money in this fund, we could have it ready. If we had negotiated a good price and we were able to move on it, act on it quickly, when I asked the administration, did it have any particular project, and they said, well, right now they want to establish it, and then they would come back to you and say what they wanted, how much they want to appropriate, what the purpose would be. So I think right now we're not putting a particular amount, we're not saying exactly what it is. That would come in a future meeting, because everything still has to be approved by the council. So to your question, I personally don't know what they were, are thinking or contemplating, what additional capital things, so.
No, and I think my point is that nothing that is currently in place without this prohibits you guys from spending whatever you want to spend on capital projects. So why create a fund that increases?
I agree, because right now, if we want to do something, if we had a particular project, we would come to the council with an appropriation and say, here's the project, the council could review it, the council could, approve the appropriation or not approve it, and we could set up a fund. We would have to create a fund. I don't know if it's more like a shortcut. Steve, I know Steve has done some in other cities.
Almost every city I work with has one. It's a budgeting tool, because that fund can only be used for capital projects, where the general fund is fungible. It can be used for lots of different functions. It's a budgeting tool.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Councilman Perez. If we go through the usual process, where we go, I looked at it as being more of a shortcut. I could be wrong, but I agree. State actually came up with this entire, packet, and they put a deadline on it.
And I think that's my point, that something has to be different, and that's why you want the fund. And I don't know that I quite understand that. So I'd like to make a motion, we table this so that I can study this a little more and make a more informative decision, because I'm just not clear. And the explanation you're giving me, with all due respect, is not answering my
I understand.
concerns.
Matter of fact, I spoke to Steve for a meeting, and he has more experience with these funds. Like I said, the fund, we had it before. I don't know how it was presented before. I know they passed it. I know that it was going on till 2013, 14, around there, when it wasn't re-advertised.
Okay, I appreciate that. We do have a motion on the floor, though. Do I get somebody second that? Motion was made by Councilman Perez, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado, to table ordinance 19-0002. Any-
President, could I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
It's relating to this motion. Val, when did we advertise for the public hearing for this specific rate
I
reestablishment?
believe for next meeting. If you look at the procedures, there's a guideline by the state. There is a deadline. I know you could actually vote for it in first reading and take it to committee. I don't know if that's a better route, because then you're not delayed and you get your answers answered if you have a committee meeting.
Point of order, Mr. President, there's no discussion made when we were going to table something.
Okay.
I move that we go to roll call.
Councilman, or Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
No.
Orange,
No.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Okay.
Clerk Santos, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0003, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland, additional appropriation ordinance for contractual services for roof repair projects for City Hall buildings and North Harbor facade program.
So moved, Mr. President, on first reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to hear ordinance 19-0003 on first reading. Have any discussion on the motion? Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes. Clerk Santos, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0004, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland. Additional appropriation ordinance for shovel-ready road projects and capital improvement of city-owned buildings.
So move.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Monroe, seconded by Councilwoman Orange, to hear ordinance 19-0004. Councilman Monroe, was that on first or second reading?
First and second, sir.
First and second reading. Any
Yes.
discussion on the motion? Councilman Medina?
Do we have anyone here to answer questions on this?
Hello, William Allen, City Engineer.
Good evening. Do we have a list of where these monies are going to be spent? $7,500,000.
Yeah, we have a grand list of projects, some that are shovel-ready, some that still need to be planned out, that can still be executed in 2019.
Is it possible to get a breakdown of that,
Yes.
as opposed to just throwing a large number like that at us?
I can prepare that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city engineer? Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes. Clerk Santos, do we have any ordinances on second reading?
Mr. President, we still have one more.
Oh, yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
Ordinance 19-0005, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland. Additional appropriation ordinance appropriating sanitary district funds in order to purchase vehicles and equipment.
So moved on first and second reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Walker, to hear ordinance 19-0005. On second reading, any discussion on the motion? Councilman Medina?
Do we have anyone here to answer questions? Thank you.
Good evening, Council Keith Selvey, Director of Public Works.
Sir, $2,800,000, is it possible to get a breakdown
Yes, sir.
of where these monies are going? All these vehicles will be purchased for this year?
Yes, sir.
I do recall last year we did make a large purchase as well.
That is correct. So this is a continuation of last year. We have quite a few vehicles that are 10 years old plus, and we're trying to actually slowly phase those particular vehicles out. We have also had an opportunity to go down to the convention for new equipment. I had the pleasure of sending two of my foremen down 2 weeks ago, actually. There is some new equipment out there that we would like to take advantage of which one is what we call the trash vac. It's a great vehicle. I want to get a couple of them just to make sure it works the way it looks like it works, or we've seen videos that it works. I have a goal. My goal basically is to change the sanitation department a little bit differently from where it operates now. We currently have large routes, so a particular truck may have, I would say 15, 16 blocks that they actually encumber daily. What I would like to envision is actually have smaller routes with smaller actual vehicles, hence the actual one-arms as well as the rear loaders that I'm asking 8 of. What I envision happening is a couple of things. The first thing is, with the smaller routes and the smaller trucks, we'll have an opportunity to do more than just garbage collection. Right now, my trucks are kind of humping to make sure they finish their route. And at which point in time, they've been doing a good job, but I can see some ways in which we can actually alter that. The most important way is that I want to shorten the routes and do more of a focus on the smaller routes with manicuring the alleys and the alleyways. What I mean by that is having one of these vehicles, eventually, if it works properly, trail behind an actual garbage truck. So what you see now, my guys going out, they approach a toter, they grab a toter, they put it in the truck, or one of my one-arms grabs it, dumps it into the back of the truck, and then they move on. Because of the large amount of route, they got to keep moving. But what you see is a lot of trash left behind. So making the routes a lot smaller and having some of these smaller trash facts following behind to manicure, I think will make the city look much better. That's my goal. It's a lofty goal, as you can see. There's some changes I'm making. Smaller trucks versus the larger trucks. The larger trucks hold up to 20 yards. The smaller trucks are going to be right around about 12 yards. So, yes, I'm giving up some capacity to the actual vehicle itself, but I'm going to have a more manicured opportunity to come behind it. So, just small little tweaks that I'm looking at to try to actually make the city look a little bit better.
Any other questions? Thank you, Selby.
Thank you.
Clerk Santos, roll call for ordinance 19-0005 on second reading.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Franceschi.
Yes. Clerk Santos, do we have any resolutions?
No ordinance is on second reading, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry. Going a little ahead of myself. Huh?
No ordinance is on second reading, and we do have ordinance on third reading.
Can you read it, please?
Ordinance 19-001, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2752 in Title 15, Chapter 156 of the East Chicago Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, and repealing all other ordinance in conflict therewith by amending Section 156.077 special usage by adding Section 25.
So moved on third and final reading?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, second by Councilman Perez, to hear ordinance 19-0001 on third reading. Any questions on the motion?
Discussion.
Attorney?
From legal. Mr. President, members of the council, some council members have inquired and expressed some concern about this amendment to the zoning ordinance. By way of a brief explanation, and the conclusion I'm going to lead to is that the council is secure in passing this amendment to the text of the zoning ordinance because any requests later, after this is made part of the zoning ordinance for tank farms as a special use, will have to come first before the BCA for a public hearing, and then ultimately will have to come to the council for a yes/no approval. This ordinance merely amends the zoning ordinance to allow tank farms in the future, if there's a petitioner for one, by way of a special use, and the safeguards that the council and the public has with all special uses, including these special uses, is that the petitioner would have to prove at the public hearing and before the council that the tank farm is safe and promotes the public interest, promotes public health and safety, promotes public convenience, does not adversely affect property values in the surrounding area, conforms to the purpose and intent of the zoning regulations, is compatible with the surrounding area, is not detrimental or injurious to the surrounding area and does not create any excessive nuisance. So those are things that the petitioner would have to approve when the matter would come to you, if there is one in the future. If a petitioner can't prove those things to the satisfaction of the council, you have the right to vote down the special use. So there's protection for the elected officials and protection for the public and members of the neighborhoods, so that these matters are, I suspect these uses are going to be proposed, if they're proposed, only in industrial zones. One other safeguard that the council has is the city code provides that the special use permit may, at the direction of the council, be issued only for a particular period of time, and the council may also set a time for review of the special use, and the council may also attach any reasonable conditions to approval of the special use. So there are safeguards with this amendment to the text of the zoning ordinance, because you'll ultimately control whether any of these tank farm special uses are ever approved.
Thank you, Attorney. Councilman Medina?
Mr. Buscemi, in this ordinance, I had some concerns at the last meeting. This is limited to crude oil and/or petroleum products.
That's what it says.
So if somebody wanted to put up a tank farm for hazardous waste, do they still have to go through?
Would not be permitted under this section.
It would not?
Would not, because this is a tank farm, as you've correctly pointed out, from the text of the amendment that you put into the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Only for storage of crude oil and/or petroleum products.
So that doesn't...
Someone could come to the city for a facility for hazardous waste, but they would have to come to the city under, and I don't know if there is, under some other section of the zoning code. And again, that type of a use would require a BZA public hearing, and then a recommendation for or against or neutral from the BZA, and then would come to the council as the final decision maker.
So the public is still protected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In my opinion, they are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Clerk Santos, roll call to adopt ordinance 19-0001 on third and final reading.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes. Clerk Santos, any resolutions?
Yes, resolution 19-005, sponsored Councilwoman Christine Vasquez and Councilwoman Gilda Orange. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago, Indiana, to officially celebrate the month of March 2019 as Cesar Chavez Month.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Any discussion on the motion? Councilwoman Orange?
Can this be read in its entirety, please?
Resolution 19-0005, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago, Indiana, to officially celebrate the month of March 2019 as Cesar Chavez Month. Whereas Cesar Chavez was born on March 31st, 1927 in Yuma, Arizona. His father, Librado Chavez, and mother, Juana Estrada Chavez, were small farmers. He was the second of 5 children and the oldest of 3 brothers. Whereas Cesar Chavez was born Cesario Estrada Chavez, he dedicated his life to improving the treatment, pay, and working conditions for farm workers. Whereas Cesar Chavez and his family toiled in the fields as migrant workers, farm workers. Whereas Cesar Chavez employed nonviolent means to bring attention to the plight of farm workers and formed the National Farm Workers Association, which later became the United Farm Workers in 1972. Whereas the town Cesar Chavez moved to in California, where he was a child, was Sal Se Puedes, which translates to escape if you can. Whereas Cesar Chavez was a union leader and labor organizer who knew all too well the hardships that farm workers faced in their lives. Whereas after working as a community and labor organizer in the 1950s, Cesar Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association in 1962. Whereas this union joined with the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee in its first strike against grape growers in California in 1965. Whereas Cesar Chavez led marches, called for boycotts, and went on several hunger strikes to underscore the plight of farm workers. Whereas in the end, Cesar Chavez and his union won several victories for the farm workers when many growers signed contracts with the union. Whereas Cesar Chavez faced more challenges through the years from other growers and the Teamsters Union, and all the while he continued to oversee the union and work to advance the cause. Whereas Cesar Chavez also brought national awareness to the dangers of pesticides to workers' health. Whereas Cesar Chavez's dedication to his work earned him numerous friends and supporters, including Robert Kennedy and Jesse Jackson. Whereas it is believed that Cesar Chavez's hunger strikes contributed to his death. He died on April 23, 1993 in San Luis, Arizona. Now therefore be it resolved that the month of March 2019 shall be officially celebrated by the City of East Chicago as Cesar Chavez Month.
Councilman Medina?
Clerk Santos, can you add my name as a sponsor on this?
Councilwoman Vasquez?
Yes, I just wanted to say that Cesar Chavez's legacy, he was known for empowering people who thought they had no power. Cesar Chavez, as I read his story, had many famous quotes, but there's one that I'd like to share with my colleagues and the public. History will judge societies and governments and their institutions, not by how big they are or how well they serve the rich and the powerful, but by how effectively they respond to the needs of the poor and the helpless.
Councilman Monroe?
Yes, if my colleagues don't mind, I'd like to be on that sponsor too.
Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes, resolution passes. Do we have any old business? Moving on to new business. We have any new business? We do have, moving on to public expression, we do have one, Mr. Juan Andrade. You please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Juan Andrade, 4005 Elm Street, East Chicago, Indiana. Ages ago, Mr. Chavez was at the Hispanic Catholic Center when it was still in existence, and at an event, I'm not sure what it was all about, but I was there with him ages ago here in East Chicago, Indiana. Main purpose I'm here today is because on behalf of the committee for the Washington High School class of 1976, Johnny Mitchell, Ila Barbosa, Debbie Sapko, myself, Cece Cruz, and Paul Vela. We are part of the class of 1976. We are having our next high school reunion on Thursday, July the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th, but this time it's open to all the Washington High School alums. It's a 3-day event. The whole package itself is just $175. You can go to the Facebook, go to ECW class of 1976, 43rd class reunion, and we hope we can get as many alum from Washington High School to come to this. The first day is actually a meet and greet at the Dynasty with Together playing at the facility. The second day is a cruise at Navy Pier, and the third day is a picnic at Washington Park here in East Chicago. So go to the website, and you make your checks payable to the ECW class of 1976, and we hope that all the alumni will come out here and support this fundraiser, because as you know, today, we could be here today, tomorrow, we may be gone. Perfect example, Michael Phillips was one of the main chair people of this committee 2 years ago. A short time after the event happened, Michael Phillips went to heaven, so we don't know. Let me just say this real quickly. We had fish fries, we got 3 more fish fries at St. Pat's, 3802 Grand Boulevard in East Chicago, Indiana. We'd like to have you come out there from 4 to 7 p.m. And then finally, we've had some candidates come on our program. That's Nuestra Comunidad, Northwest Indiana, with my co-host Eve Gomez and myself. We'd like to invite all the candidates, whether from East Chicago or other communities, to come on our program. You can promote your candidacy both in English and in Spanish, either for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour. We also have 60-second spots available. You can get a hold of myself or Ms. Eve Gomez if you'd like to advertise your candidacy. And on that note, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So move. Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Clerk Santos, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange. Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes, good night.